All right. Welcome everyone to this event. Thank you so much for joining us. You could see us all taking photos because this is actually a moment of celebration. It's a moment of gathering and a moment to really pull the best minds together to think about the linkage between climate change, climate action, and agri-food systems. And what can we do as a collective to really accelerate action and accelerate progress? So we're really excited to be launching a key report around climate technology for agri-food systems transformation. My name is Salina Abraha. I am a chief of staff at the Center for International Forestry Research and World Agroforestry, and I will be the moderator for today. We have a really exciting and rich agenda where we're inviting, speakers from all different stakeholders, sectors, perspectives to really unpack what has been done, what needs to be done, and how can we focus our energy together as a collective on these key moments of acceleration? Is it, these new technologies that are emerging, some that we haven't even imagined and brought onto this planet yet? Or is it some of these ancient wisdom practices that have always been here, but perhaps forgotten? So I will be excited to walk us through this event. We have high level, perspectives, national leaders, those who are setting and developing policy. And we also have farmers, the private sector, indigenous communities, funders, those who are key to driving the action on the ground. So without further ado, I want to move straight into the welcoming remarks. I am pleased to invite Dr. Sarvan Jafarov, Deputy Minister of Agriculture of this beautiful country that we all have a pleasure of being of. Please, the floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to welcome you to this critical session at COP29 here in Baku, as we gather to discuss one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the intersection of climate change and agri-food systems. Today, we come together to explore how we can accelerate the implementation of nationally determined contributions and expand the adoption of climate technologies within the agri-food sector. As a dual-edged challenge, agriculture is both a victim and a contributor to climate change. While the agri-food sector accounts for a significant share of global greenhouse gas emissions, it is also deeply vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. In Azerbaijan, as in many countries, our farmers are facing increasing risks from unpredictable weather patterns, water scarcity, and soil degradation. These challenges demand urgent action not only to mitigate emissions, but also to build resilience across the food systems that sustain us all. To achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement, we must take bold steps to integrate climate action into every aspect of our food production, distribution, and consumption systems. This is where the acceleration of NDCs comes into play. NDCs represent our collective commitment to reducing emissions, adapting to climate impacts, and mobilizing financial resources. However, for these commitments to hold value, they must be translated into tangible actions on the ground, especially in sectors like agriculture, which are central to both economic development and climate resilience. In Azerbaijan, we are committed to scaling up our indices with a particular focus on the agri-food systems, recognizing the climate technologies hold the key to transforming this sector. Innovations such as climate-smart agriculture, precision farming, green energy solutions, agroforestry, and sustainable water management technologies have the potential to significantly reduce emissions, enhance productivity, and support farmers in adapting to shifting climate conditions. Through our updated NDC 3.0, Azerbaijan is setting ambitious targets to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions while enhancing our climate resilience, focusing on sustainable practices in agriculture and energy use, as well as boosting the green economy. However, technology alone is not enough. We must also foster the right enabling environment, which includes access to finance, capacity building, and robust policy frameworks. This brings us to the core of today's discussion: how we move forward with the acceleration of NDCs in agri-food systems through the uptake of climate technologies. We must work collaboratively across sectors and regions to scale up innovations that are both locally relevant and globally impactful. At COP29, we have a unique opportunity to forge partnerships and share best practices that can accelerate the uptake of climate technologies across agri-food systems. We must work together to create a future where food security, environmental sustainability, and climate resilience go hand in hand. In conclusion, let us embrace the challenge ahead with determination and optimism. By accelerating the implementation of NDCs in agri-food systems and scaling up the adoption of climate technologies, we can create a sustainable, resilient, and prosperous future for all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister, for really illustrating what agriculture can be. It is a risk. It is part of the problem when it comes to climate change, but it can be part of the solution. So I would really like to invite now 2 additional welcoming remarks from the main conveners of this event. And I welcome you to deliver them from your seat, so you can do it from where you are. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Manuel Barange, Assistant Director General of the FAO and the Director of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Division. Welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Today we face a significant challenge. Over 700 million people that are grappling with hunger, around 3 billion people that cannot afford a healthy diet, and more than 2 billion that have lack or that do not have access to water. The climate crisis is likely to exacerbate these issues, including through extreme weather events, threatening our goals to leave no one behind in ending hunger and poverty in the world. 80% of the world's extreme poor live in rural areas. They face repeated climate events that deepen the vulnerability and heightened conflict over diminishing natural resources. Rural communities, farmers, and fishers rely on natural resources. The climate crisis affects them more intensely in their lives and in their livelihoods. Because they also lack access to essential data, technologies, and effective governance, their resilience to climate change impacts is hindered. The statistics are quite sobering. Year on year, poor households lose an average of 5% of their income due to heat stress and 4.4% due to floods. Female-headed households bear the brunt of these losses, seeing their total incomes drop considerably more than their male counterparts. There's an urgent need for targeted support and a just transition strategies in our agri-food systems, but we do have solutions in hand. In agri-food systems, climate technologies and technological innovation present a vital opportunity to adapt to these challenges, becoming critical accelerators of climate action and enhancing food security, leaving no one behind. FAO has developed guidance on technologies for agri-food systems which can reduce emissions and increase resilience. We can also look to adaptations of traditional knowledge, such as intercropping low-lying plants under fruit trees for shade, using crop diversity to reduce financial risk, or combining rice fish or forest, ponds, aquaculture systems to add diversity and productivity to our systems. Using renewable energy in processing and cold storage also works, as does drip irrigation and treated wastewater in cultivation. These practices underscore the need for tailored, localized approaches that respect the diversity of agri-food systems and the cultural practices worldwide. By innovating production techniques and fostering equitable and resilient value chains, we can empower fishers, farmers, and communities depending on terrestrial and aquatic food systems to thrive. But to truly harness these technologies, we must invest more in education and in capacity building. The joint work of the Technology Executive Committee and FAO highlights the critical connections between climate technologies and agri-food systems. It identifies key challenges and solutions for transformation, including capacity building and finance. FAO dedicates substantial efforts to inform stakeholders and encourage investment in agri-food technologies. Awareness of solutions and adequate financing are prerequisites for combating climate change and bolstering resilience. As parties prepare for the next round on national determined contributions, FAO reminds all concerned that agri-food systems are not just part of the climate conversation, they are essential to it. To limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 43% by 2030 and by 60% by 2035 compared to 2019 levels. This is a call to action to all of us. The new NDCs are an opportunity to raise the profile of agri-food systems and the available technologies that we need for climate adaptation and mitigation. We must prioritize our most vulnerable sectors and communities so we protect those most at risk. We invite you to join the efforts of FAO and its partners by working together from high-level dialogues and to innovations on the ground. The work of FAO and the UNFCCC will move the climate action agenda forward. Hopefully, it will foster positive outcomes in the next rounds of NDCs and encourage essential investment in technology within agri-food systems. Together, let us commit to transformative action that not only addresses the climate crisis, but also uplifts those who have been the most affected by it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for those opening remarks, reminding us of the need for ambition, but also to not underestimate how hard it is to take knowledge into practice. It requires that convening and that coordination. So we're really thankful to have with us our second host. I want to introduce Mr. Daniel Violetti, Senior Director of Programs and Coordination at the UNFCCC. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Salina, and Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Truly honored to be part of this panel and welcoming you all on behalf of the UNFCCC Secretariat to this very important discussion on moving forward with the NDC, Accelerating Agri-Food Systems Climate Technology Updates. This is really an exciting discussion. It's coming at the right time in the context of the very heavy agenda of COP29 with very important deliverable to be reached by the end of this week. So I think everybody is aware what the Global Stocktake reported to us at COP28 last year, and made it very clear that technology plays an essential and crucial role in advancing climate action under the Paris Agreement. So climate technology can provide the opportunity not only to adjust and mitigate climate change, but also to strengthen food security, as was just said. So the report that will be presented here today is a result of 2-year partnership between the Technology Executive Committee and UN Food and Agriculture Organization. It provides an overview of the interlinkages between agri-food system and climate technology, and it is a significant contribution to helping us accelerate the implementation and future planning of NDCs. NDCs, the new round of NDCs, which is due by February 2025, will be the defining moment of the climate change process. And as we come to September next year, when we will prepare our new synthesis report of all the NDC that have been submitted by then, we have to demonstrate that we are still on track to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. So I really want to thank FAO for cooperating with the TEC on this important topic. And this dialogue today is an important step forward. You will hear from a wide range of stakeholders on climate technologies and agri-food systems, update of technology, finance, capacity building, and the need for integrated policy. So look forward to the discussion, and I wish you good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for providing that opening context, for reminding us why this is so important to have this conversation here and now and what we can unpack. So this next segment of our discussion is going to dive into where the responsibility really lies in the country leadership, in the policy and governance dimensions, to really unpack, what does it look like to have an enabling environment that supports innovation, but also supports the broader challenges and societal desires that we all have? So we're very excited to introduce our next segment of speakers for this. And very pleased to have an ambassador for land, for gender, for really good policy. We have Ms. Tarja Halonen, the former president of Finland and the UNCCD land ambassador. The floor is yours.
So, hello everybody. So I'm also one of those who, how could I say, guilty or responsible for the RIA process. I was co-chairing the RIA process a long time ago. But why I take it? It is that already when we made this dialogue, we said that, of course, all the progressive presidents and prime ministers and ministers are very welcome to work for this target. But it's not enough. That this is such kind of target where we need all sectors of the society, starting from the business and universities and all different kind of experts coming to the farmers and also the average citizens, because otherwise we cannot change it. So the fact that we are now so long ago is nothing what we have just found, but it has been since the beginning. So the second point is that I come from the very northern country, Finland. We have almost the same time zone, but we are there up. And it's an area where the grass comes almost every year, but everything else is more or less that let's see what happens. And that's why we are interested very much in the milk production and dairies, because the cattle eat grass. So the second point is that we have always based in education. And that's why we also noticed when we made years ago the Nokia invention that private, public together can be a very good keys. And this is exactly the same now, what I will say to you. We know that we have all these SDGs. We know that today, especially, we are speaking both the climate, but we are speaking also about hunger. We need, or like it was already mentioned, that how many people are already without food or regular food. But we know also that the food that people will get, even the bigger amount, is such kind of food which is not, how could I say, healthy diet. Some part of it is because their own behavior, but some parts is because they cannot receive it. And now today, I hope so that we can discuss about how to solve this issue. Many of these issues are so that you have the positive side, negative side, and when you try to combine the different kind of the issues, there's difficulty. But today, we have the system where we can say that taking into account the climate, but also the social dimension of the SDGs, they are hand in hand. Because the local farmers, small farmers especially, this can be the key for this food issue. And if we take the small farmers, so about half of this labor that's working there are women. But you already guessed what I was saying. The amount of the money, the resources they will get is very, very little, only a few %. So taking both the science, innovations, education, and resources, there is a very good answer for this. We have to notice all these possibilities of the women. And that's also the bridge I will try to build here, not only to Brazil, but from here to Riyadh, to Saudi Arabia, like she already mentioned. I'm a land ambassador of the UNCCD, which means that we have a very big cooperation maneuver. We speak about her land. About 100 member countries of the UN, everything concerning the legislation. I'm a former lawyer, so it's all right. But in practice, we see that in 100 countries, there are some obstacles that why the women cannot use all these resources. They are not equal. And that's why, again, the second time, my response is that notice your women, your female resources you have. I'm not always with men. I have already said that some of them are quite smart. So it's all right. So we need 50% plus 50% is 100%. But the lacking half is now the women. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for reminding us of that critical intersection that's forgotten. And, you know, as a lawyer saying, it's not about the perfect words and the policies, it's about what it looks like on the ground. And how can we all play a role as, you know, bringing the necessary people to take action together. I'm very pleased to now welcome and introduce Ms. Claudia Müller, Parliamentary State Secretary of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture of Germany. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, well, first of all, thank you to FAO and UNFCCC for organizing this high-level dialogue on the NDCs. And I really like to share the Germany's point of view. Well, first of all, it is really essential that TEC also focuses on the field of food and agriculture, because this has a prominent place in your agenda. But what we are seeing, and I cannot stop repeating it, when we talk about everything going on in COP, we're talking about the negotiations. We really have to make sure that food and agricultural systems are also in the center of it, because you said it, Mr. Branche, food and water are necessities. They are basic needs of people. And we're seeing that with the climate crisis, the hunger crisis is also expanding. We are actually moving backwards. Countries that had been secure before are not secure anymore. So really, we are seeing the outcomes of the climate crisis affecting not only food security, but in that way, our security worldwide, and we really have to make that or bring that to the focus point. When we talk about TEC, of course, we always look at the new technologies developing, and for the upcoming next round on the NDCs, I really think that it's a unique opportunity to strengthen the roles. We are currently working on implementing the Emirates Declaration both nationally and internationally. For example, internationally, the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development supports that field, for example, supporting other countries with elaborating their NDCs 3.0 with respect to food and agriculture, so giving help with that point. We are also one of the main funders of the FAST initiative, and the FAST initiative and now the new Harmonia initiative that was launched here. And this is something really special. They are working together. So they are synchronizing and harmonizing their initiatives. And this is really a step forward. And as I said before in another panel, sometimes we have to think about not always launching something new, but really to build upon what we have, strengthen that, adapt that, and really build on what we have and not always starting anew. That is the way to move forward in that field. When it comes to technology, of course, what we're seeing, we don't have infinite resources. Even though we are talking about resources that we grow, the soil does not. So we really have to see how to protect that. And of course, technology like AI and others can help doing that, being more efficient, identifying, for example, weeds, and reducing the use of pesticides, but also adapting to the climate changes and therefore for the spread of new pests in areas. Mrs. Harlonen mentioned that in the north we are now seeing, I'm from the north of Germany, so rather close in that perspective. We're seeing that we have effects that we knew from the Mediterranean area that are now hitting our areas as well. Of course, we have to adapt to that, and therefore we have to learn from other regions how they do it so that we do not have to start anew. And we also have to look to some fields that we might not have in our view at the moment. Let me mention something that you might not have thought about yet. New space. The new space initiatives do look to agriculture as well, because there are synergies between what they are doing, especially with satellites and data, then into the agricultural field. So we do not only have to look to the ground, but we also have to look up on that perspective. But let me make one more point, because when we talk about technologies, we tend to look at new technologies, we tend to look to digitalization, but we are working in a natural environment. And nature does offer solutions. For example, when we talk about carbon sinks, we're talking about CCS, but we have natural carbon sinks already. And we can use that, and we have to expand them, and we have to protect them. And for that, technology is also a tool for doing so. But so it's not technology versus nature, but it has to be brought together. And that is the way to move forward. And now I would like to stop and looking forward to my fellow speakers here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Mueller. I think there was some really sound advice for us all to take. How can we innovate by building on what exists and not constantly looking at the new, looking up, looking down, and most importantly, also learning from each other. So what does it look like to focus on sharing that knowledge, and what is the role that technology plays? I'd like to now invite Ms. Nino Tandelashvili, the first Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture in another beautiful country nearby, Georgia. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It is my pleasure to be here today with you. Let me start highlighting and thanking the government of Azerbaijan for the wonderful organization of this COP meeting. We consider that it's a very important event for the South Caucasus region, and Azerbaijan, which is a very good friend of us and strategic partner of Georgia. We are proud that this COP is organized so successfully. Let me also thank the organizers of this very important side event, because we consider that agriculture is one of the key priorities for our region, because our region, Georgia, Azerbaijan, all the neighboring countries have quite a rich culture of agricultural activities. And therefore, this issue is critical for us, for the governments, for the farmers. And of course, it's critical on the policy level, but it's very critical also on the practical level as well. We all understand that food systems and agriculture sector plays a key role in, of course, responding to the social disbalance in the regions of our countries. But on the other hand, it faces a lot of challenges due to the climate change and due to the vulnerabilities of the climate change. And of course, the government of Georgia takes this issue quite seriously, and there are specific decisions on the policy level, which is then implemented on the practical level. And let me start highlighting from the NDC, which is a key document for all of us when we are talking about the climate policy. And in our NDC, of course, agriculture is one of the sectors where we need to encourage climate smart technologies, and we need to encourage their implementation in the practical reality. The same is reflected in our climate strategy, which covers the periods from 2020 until 2030, kind of a long-term vision for the country. And in updating our NDC, which will come out for the next year and which will be more ambitious than the previous one, of course, agriculture will stay as one of the key priority, with the focuses of supporting farmers in terms of implementing more climate smart technologies in their activities. But on the other hand, there are practical issues that we face, right? That are the policy decisions that then might require implementation. And therefore, the government of Georgia has a comprehensive agricultural sector strategy with also primary focus on supporting specifically small-scale farmers in adapting to the climate change vulnerabilities. The state has already launched a specific government support program for the small-scale farmers. We call it Innovative Technologies Grant Program, which actually supports the knowledge and skill development among the farmers in the regions of Georgia. And this specific program actually aims to increase the productivity, on the one hand, income of the small-scale farmers, but also enhancement and implementation of various innovative technologies in the practice. The second and the most important emphasis, and there has been a lot of mention about it today, it's irrigation, because we know that we cannot develop agricultural sector without irrigation systems, especially within these times when we face serious issues of climate change in some of the regions of Georgia and water scarcity as well. So the government actually managed to mobilize approximately 300 million US dollars from IMDBs to develop modern irrigation systems from World Bank, from ADB, from our international multilateral banks, to develop modern irrigation systems, including drip irrigation systems, in order to ensure that farmers have access to the water resources, but on the other hand, that water is managed efficiently and in a sustainable manner. So that's also a second and the most important priority at this moment for us. And the third is multi-hazard early warning systems. And within these climate vulnerabilities, we all understand that dramatic weather events are actually those ones that we face also in our region, and this is a challenge for the farmers as well. So we have started to develop comprehensive multi-hazard early warning systems through the support of the Green Climate Fund, and it has also the component, specific component for farmers as well. So this system actually allows us in the coming years, when it is fully implemented in the country, to have the proper forecast for the droughts, for dramatic events. And we have also launched the specific Georgia Climate Service for agriculture for our farmers. And this is an application that actually provides farmers with the critical information and recommendations on soil degradation, humidity level, climate trends, and many other issues, which is also very valuable information for agricultural activities in these times. And this is not all that I can talk about. There are many more things in our agenda, of course, but those are the critical aspects that we believe is important in developing modern agricultural sector, and using also the modern technologies and offering the modern technologies to the farmers and transferring this knowledge to them. Nevertheless, we recognize that there is still much to be done in this process, and we look forward to scaling up our efforts in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. It was really incredible to start to unpack what it means to have a functioning strategy for agri-food system transition, and how wide-reaching those solutions go, from water management to disaster response, coordinating international actors to get the funding where it needs to go. It's something we'll begin to unpack in the following panels. So it is my pleasure now. We are represented here in the room. We have presence from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, Japan. But we'll be receiving and watching a video from the Vice Minister for International Affairs, Mr. Yoichi Watanabe, from the Ministry of Agriculture from Japan. So we'll take a moment to view the video that he's provided us. So as they pull that up, I just want to provide a thank you to Mr. Osamu Kubota, who is present here in the room. Thank you for being with us. And please, now that we have the video, a round of applause for the Vice Minister.
Today, I express my sincere appreciation to the UNFCCC. I'm Watanabe Yoichi, Vice Minister for International Affairs of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, MAF, Japan. I'm grateful to deliver a statement at this seminar on climate technology and NDC on the COP29 Food, Agriculture and Water Day. I express my sincere appreciation to the UNFCCC, TEC, CTCN, FAO, and all those who have contributed to organizing this seminar. As the severity of climate change impacts increases, it's becoming an urgent challenge to achieve global food security while accelerating the agri-food sector's contribution to the NDC. In 2021, MAS Japan has formulated the Midori strategy for sustainable food systems, with a particular focus on accelerating the innovation in climate-smart agricultural technologies that can increase both productivity and sustainability. In May this year, for the first time in the 25 years since its enactment, the Basic Act on Food, Agriculture and Rural Areas was revised, which sets the direction of Japan's agricultural policy. The Act further promotes the reduction of environmental burdens by setting establishment of environmentally friendly food systems as one of its new pillars. This principle also applies to international cooperation projects contributing to sustainable and resilient agriculture under the ASEAN-Japan Midori Cooperation Plan. We now intend to expand our circle of collaboration to a wider range of partners, including nations in Central and South America and Africa. MAS Japan has long dedicated its efforts to integrating agricultural techniques and practices to climate change policies since we developed the first MAS plan for global warming countermeasures in 2008. Japan is one of the few countries that stipulate concrete actions and numerical targets with respect to mitigation in the agricultural sector by the National Plan for Global Warming Countermeasures, which supports the implementation of our NDC, including methane emission reduction through the extension of midterm drainage of paddy fields, N2O emission reduction through appropriate fertilizer application, and carbon removal through soil carbon sequestration in farmlands. In our efforts to achieving our NDC, we are currently promoting 1. Visualization of farmers' efforts for GHG emission reduction and biodiversity conservation in the form of labeling of products. 2. Utilization of J-credit scheme for mitigation efforts in the agriculture sector. In addition to that, the measurement, reporting, and verification of GHG emissions is a fundamental element to implement the NDC. MAS Japan is promoting research on the dynamics of GHGs from farmland and conducting continuous surveys to collect basic data required for monitoring and reporting of GHG emissions. Especially, Japan would be one of the most advanced countries in the area of measurement, reporting, and verification in the agriculture sector. Japan has integrated soil carbon sequestration into its national inventories and estimates methane emissions from paddy fields using an advanced calculation model. Japan is also intensifying international cooperation in NDC implementation. As one of the collaborative projects under the ASEAN-Japan Midori Cooperation Plan, we are administering a flagship project with FAO to support the implementation of the Paris Agreement in developing countries. Furthermore, we are aiming to utilize the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JCM, in the agriculture sector to disseminate climate-smart technologies in our partner countries through mobilization of private sector technologies and investment. In the area of international research cooperation, Japan is promoting the development and demonstration of alternate wetting and drying, AWD, that can reduce water consumption and methane emissions from rice paddy, and biological nitrification inhibition, BNI, enables wheat that can maintain high productivity under reduced nitrogen application, contributing to achieving sustainability and productivity in a wider region, including developing countries. Towards COP30 next year, Japan will formulate policy package of such mitigation technologies and policy tools for their dissemination under the recognition of the particular importance of innovation, as well as the diversity in agricultural systems and resulting need for diverse solutions, with the aim of further accelerating our efforts. MAS Japan will continue to contribute to the implementation of the NDC domestically and internationally, building on our experiences and technologies developed through the Midori strategy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much to the Vice Minister for delivering that message, for really unpacking what it looks like at the level for Japan. I also want to just have a massive thank you to the panelists for providing those opening remarks, for really being willing to share the challenges in your perspectives. So please give them a round of applause as we close out this panel. So what we'd like to do now is play a video that provides a really powerful overview of everything we've been talking about. How do we connect climate and tech? What does it look like really to accelerate that transition? So as the panelists leave the stage, we'll play the video for you. Thank you.
Climate technologies are key to addressing the climate crisis. They enhance adaptation, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and increase carbon storage. They can make every stage of agri-food systems, production, processing, storage, and distribution more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. Climate technologies also improve food security and transform livelihoods. But lack of investment, know-how, and enabling policies often block their adoption. Investment is needed to boost climate technologies across the agri-food value chain. Tailored finance is essential, creating favourable conditions for borrowers and financial institutions alike. Accurate assessments are fundamental, identifying the best technology for a particular location and its needs. Building skills, especially among smallholders, rural women and vulnerable groups, will improve outcomes. Above all, policies must be coordinated across governments and sectors, clearly targeting climate change, agriculture, development and the environment. Urgent action is crucial. More than 3.3 billion people live in countries that are highly vulnerable to climate change. Each year, the sector loses hundreds of billions of dollars worth of crops and livestock due to disaster events, undermining farmers' livelihoods and food security. Agri-food systems contribute around 1/3 of human-produced greenhouse gas emissions. But in 2020, agri-food solutions received a very small 4.3% of global climate finance. The next round of nationally determined contributions is the ideal opportunity for countries to adopt climate technologies and spur transformation. Using climate technologies effectively along the value chain will ensure that agri-food systems adapt to climate change and create prosperity for the planet and all of its people.
I hope that provided a picture of where we're going today as we move to the next segments of this discussion. And please, another round of applause for our panelists as you move the audience. Brilliant. So can I just get a show of hands? How many here work in the agri-food systems space? Okay, that's most of the room. And how many of you feel like you know enough about climate technologies? Yeah, you're honest people. Okay, that's good to know. So the reason why we have gathered is because we do have this report that is out now, and you can find it and we'll share more on how. Because we need to really bridge that gap and begin to unpack what does it take to make the leap to all of us here as, you know, committed champions of transformation for food systems, to being part of the solution, but perhaps being a bit detached from what are these accelerators of that transition. So we're very pleased to kind of have an opportunity now to walk through key elements of this report by two of the leading kind of champions of this process. You heard earlier, it's been a 2-year process, gathering different perspectives together to provide something that is going to help enhance NDCs now. In the presentation from Japan, we were hearing about soil organic carbon in NDCs. And it's really interesting because if you take a look at most countries, they don't all have soil organic carbons in their NDCs. And if you ask why, they feel like they don't have that data to really measure it. So how, if you don't have the baseline, how are you going to then, you know, create a real plan to measure those contributions? So what we want to look at now is what does it take to make the leap? What are some of those gaps and what's the way forward? So I'm very pleased to welcome, we've already heard from Manuel Baranch, Assistant Director General of FAO, but also we have with us Tibian Ibrahim, the chair of the Technology Executive Committee, leads climate finance and policy initiatives, and represents small island states in negotiations. Please give a round of applause for the keynote presenters.
Well, good morning again. If we can start with the first slide of the presentation. Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this overview of climate technologies for climate action in agri-food systems. Today, we will be looking at how climate technologies can accelerate NDCs in agri-food systems and asking the question, what does it take to make the leap? The basis for this presentation is our report launched at this COP entitled Climate Technologies for Agri-Food Systems Transformation, Placing Food Security, Climate Change and Poverty Reduction at the Forefront. You can download it from the FAO website, and there will be a QR code later on, but you have the address as well. We start with policy, climate action, and national determined contribution, which frames the urgent need to support climate technologies. Food security and agri-food systems risks are the most frequently reported climate-related risk in the national determined contributions, globally and in nearly every region, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. Agri-food systems feature more prominently in the NDCs as the custodian of critical adaptation and mitigation solutions, with particular core benefits for SDG 1, 2, and 13, no poverty, zero hunger, and climate action. Almost all countries see agri-food systems as a priority for climate change adaptation and mitigation in the NDCs. In fact, in the global stocktake, the agriculture sector has been consistently prioritized, and further action on climate technologies is called for. And of course, there is urgent need for consolidating climate action and agri-food system transformation policy. So let's have a quick look at what we mean by agri-food systems. In a nutshell, agri-food systems encompass the entire range of actors and their interlinked value-adding activities. Here we see that includes producing, storing, processing, retailing, consuming, and disposing. And the systems are for crops, for livestock, for fisheries, for aquaculture products, and for forestry sectors. We can see that technology and innovation are key triggers and accelerators for transformation. That includes climate technologies. Let's look at some key facts about agri-food systems. They are one of the most important sources of income and livelihoods globally. There are about 1.2 billion people that are employed in agri-food systems, and remarkably, an estimated 63% of the world's poor people work in agriculture. Extreme weather events are already causing an average of 23% in agricultural losses in some countries. Agri-food systems produce about 31% of global greenhouse gas emissions, as we just heard a moment ago, but only 4.3% of climate finance goes to these agri-food systems. Growth in agriculture is 2 to 3 times more effective at reducing poverty and food insecurity than any other measure. Crucially, climate technologies can address all of these points. And while climate change will affect us all, its effects will and are unequal. So what do we need to do to build and identify climate technology solutions for agri-food systems? For a start, strengthened technology needs assessments to identify gaps and the suitable technology options for the specificities of the local agri-food systems being considered. We need to match and strengthen capacity, skills, and institutions. Technology, after all, is only useful if people know how to use it. We need to target finance and investment to get it where it will be most effective. We have to scale up effective options for the use of climate technology, and we need coherent policies aligned with countries' NDCs and action plans. And when we consider climate technologies, we need to take the assessment to the agri-food value chain level and consider all the specificities of the country context and of the agri-food system context. Here we have to consider how they are applied at every point in the agri-food value chain, from climate technology needs at production all the way up to processing and beyond if possible. And with that, I will stop here and hand over to Mr. Tibian Ibrahim, the TEC Chair, to continue the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to see you all here. So now we will move on to this slide on climate technologies across countries in varied agri-food systems. And we'll see how climate technologies can have an impact worldwide. We don't need to go into any details of these projects. There are several listed on the slide, but they are all elaborated upon in our report, and I encourage you all to read it. It's worth noting that they cover all major sectors: agriculture, agroforestry, fisheries, and aquaculture, with a range of potential across regions in Africa, Asia, and Latin America and the Caribbean. As often is the case, the Global South is suffering from a technology and investment deficit. An important set of recommendations have been brought to the COP, building on the evidence and work in this report. In summary, going forward, the recommendations cover climate technologies being essential to accelerate progress on adaptation, resilience, and emissions reduction. They must be embedded within agri-food systems transformation, and countries must consider the entire agri-food value chain in climate technology needs assessments. There has been a tendency to focus solely on production. Many climate technologies already exist, but capacity strengthening is needed. Scaling up and effective implementation will require more finance, but that finance must also be tailored to TNAs and capacity needs assessments. We should work across sectors and work on eliminating specific barriers so that projects are meeting the criteria investors have committed funds for. In conclusion, agri-food systems hold the solutions to major interlinked challenges facing people and the planet: climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation, food insecurity, and poverty. Technology will play a key role in these solutions and enable NDC acceleration. Directing finance to agri-food systems and ensuring this finance effectively reaches agricultural communities is critical. And equally critically, the transformation of agri-food systems must be just, equitable, inclusive, and gender responsive for maximum impact. Before ending, let me take this opportunity to thank the team at FAO. It's been a pleasure for the TEC to work with Kaveh and his team, and especially Inka and Irini, for providing their technical expertise, and we look forward to future collaborations. Thank you all.
Brilliant. Yes, so we got the report online, we have the QR codes, and we have the, yes, key perspectives. Hopefully that's given you some excitement in wanting to unpack the report. But either way, we recognize this is not about the report. This is about getting a sense of what does it take to put the recommendations into practice. And that is why we want to shift into this real dialogue segment around experiences from the field, bottlenecks, which are finance, and better understanding how we all play a role in putting this into action. So I'd like to now welcome the panelists to the stage so we can dive right in. Please give a round of applause for our keynote presenters. Okay, so I can quickly introduce our panelists to you. Yeah, please join us on stage. We have Betty Chinyamunyamu, CEO of the National Smallholder Farmers Association of Malawi, representing over 130,000 farmers. We have Dr. El Mahdi, Regional Manager of the MENA region for the Green Climate Fund, so we can ask him about the money. We have Miss Faith Nataya, who's from the Maasai Indigenous community in Kenya. So we can unpack what does it mean to document that knowledge, traditional knowledge that exists and has been put into practice. We also have with us a private sector representative. We just heard there's lots of innovation around production. So how can we bring that same energy into resilience and into transformation? So we have Mr. Charles Brand from Tetra Pak, a global multinational on food packaging and processing. And we also have with us a host of the next COP that we're all very excited about, Mr. Pedro Ivo Ferraz de Silva from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil. So we can look at the way forward. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us. We want to start at the most natural starting place for food, which is the farmer. You know, we've talked about climate technologies. It's going to impact farmers more than any other. There's no such thing as, you know, bringing something new and forcing it onto the farmer without their buy-in. So how do we design with farmers at the center? Are we listening to their needs? And what about the skills and capacity needs that need to be taken in? So please let us know, what does it look like to really engage with farmers well?
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to share on behalf of the farmers. I'd like to start with saying that farmers are more likely to adopt climate technologies if they feel that the technologies actually address their immediate and urgent needs. Actually, when you think about it, smallholder farmers are facing the brunt of climate change. They are looking for solutions. They are looking for technologies that they can implement that would make things easier for them. But unless those technologies actually deal with their immediate and urgent needs, they're not going to be willing to make the move to adopt those technologies. And I'd like to underline immediate and urgent, because like I said, there are many challenges and needs and aspirations that the farmers have. So it's very important that the technologies that are developed take into consideration what the farmers themselves feel are the urgent needs. Because if a farmer has a need today, it makes no sense to develop technologies that will become useful in the future where the immediate need is not being addressed. So that's really critical. And in order for us to be able to understand that, it's important that farmers are engaged in the process of coming up with technologies. And when I talk about engagement of farmers, I mean proper engagement, not engagement where you're just telling farmers that this is it and these are the benefits, but to really engage them in developing of these technologies, to really understand and make sure that their voice is included as those technologies are being developed. And not just in the process of developing the technologies, but the entire process, whether it's implementation. Many times farmers are left out when it comes to monitoring the effectiveness of the technology. We could involve them maybe in coming up with the technology, but to involve them in monitoring, analyzing whether that technology is working or not, and what needs to be done in order to make it work better, farmers are left out. So it's very important that those monitoring workshops and conferences where technology is really discussed in terms of how effective they are, the farmer's voice is also included. I would also want to add that I think that a point made by FAO that it's very important that farmers are trained to understand, we build their capacity so that they can understand technologies. The reality is that there's a lot of, it can be overwhelming sometimes for the farmers when the technology is coming from every angle. So it's very important that they understand. There's also better coordination of the technologies so that the farmers do not get overwhelmed and confused. Sometimes it's one technology, it just has different names, but to the farmer, it can be confusing. So it's very important that stakeholders coordinate stakeholders. We use more partnerships so that as we engage with the farmer, we're engaging in a manner that is not overwhelming to them. I also want to touch on the issue of cost. Again, as a key factor that we need to consider, because some technologies could be available, but not accessible because they're too expensive. And for the farmer, there's always the opportunity cost of adopting that new technology. So it's important that we also look at innovation in terms of how we can make those technologies more accessible. So it's not just the innovation of the technology itself, but also the innovation in terms of making it more accessible so that farmers can actually find it easier and perhaps deal with that risk of moving on to that new technology. Maybe just 2 points that I would also want to add is the use of digital platforms. We've noted that farmers learn better when there's more direct engagement with technology developers, for example, and the use of SMS platforms or apps makes it easier for the farmers to be able to engage directly with the developers. So it's in Malawi, for example, we have SMS platforms, and when the farmers feel like they can ask a question directly and get a response, it gives them more confidence that this is something that they can use. So such kind of digital platforms also would help to increase adoption, as well as using extension, government extension, because adoption of extension, climate technologies also comes with trust. And if farmers have better trust of government extension services, and if there's endorsement by government extension, it makes it easier again for the farmers to adopt. I mean, I could go on, but I just want to maybe finalize with 2 statements that engaging with farmers effectively on climate technologies requires a greater focus on inclusive farmer-centric models so that farmers are considered as critical stakeholders throughout the process of developing, implementing, as well as monitoring the technology, and not just mere users of the technology. And that building trust, providing education, and ensuring tangible benefits is very important. And to that end, I'd like to say that we know there are examples of success stories, and it's very important that those success stories can be scaled up. There's better information and awareness of those success stories so that farmers can be encouraged to adopt, and especially where other fellow farmers are used to broadcast the effectiveness of those technologies, it makes it easier for the farmers. So when they see that their fellow farmers have benefited, then it also makes it easier for them to adopt as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you brought up a lot of good points that I want us to pick up as we continue this conversation. But really, essentially, what value are you bringing to the farmer, right? And ensuring that technology can be responsive to these various urgent needs. And I like where you've ended, which is we've done it well, and there are these success stories. So can we build off of that? So what I want to do is center in on the financing piece, because we heard that in the video, we heard that from FAO, and I'm curious to really understand, from your perspective, we have Mr. Amgad El Mahdi from the Green Climate Fund. Is this something that we're doing well, or how can we really get more financing into climate technologies? What's holding up that investment? It seems like a really attractive selling, pitch for a funder.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. I think it's, first of all, I think we really, I wanted to have an agreement in the room here. We should really treat farmer as investor. So we shouldn't really look at them as just a smallholder farmer, but they are really a rare investor. They invest in their land. They invest their time, they invest their effort and their resources, their family. So, and if we take that perspective and understanding, yes, the farmer are really investors. So how we can really mobilize more finance to support farmers to invest in technologies, to upgrade their farm, to upgrade their system, to be able really to produce more for less. So I think it's, are we doing really that right? To some extent, yes. However, we really need to understand what are really the key barriers that farmers are really facing to access that finance to adopt a new technology and scale up those technologies for their farms. And that really coming from like the enabling environment or the existing policy and regulatory framework. The lacking of understanding the finance in general or the finance literacy between farmers as well. But also like the collateral that's actually required from most of the donors or most of the banks that's really working with the farmers. And again, most of the farmers, they don't really have a credit history or a credit worthy. So how we can actually create this? I think at GCF, when we work to really support the agriculture sector and also support the smallholder farmers, we have different mechanisms where allow us to make this happen. But before I talk about those mechanisms, I wanted to reflect on like how we really drive that change as a principle for us. And after that, I will reflect on the financial instruments. So to drive the change through GCF, we work across 4 pillars. The first one is really like how we bring that integrated policy, integrated planning, how we bring agriculture with the climate. And that's really to ensure, again, there is a coordination or there is no silo policy in the agricultural sector. So that to ensure that enabling environment are really happening to some extent, and the government are fully aware to bring that regulatory framework that's actually required. The second principle for us, it's really about that paradigm shifting in terms of how we transfer the technology, how those innovative technology can be transferred or scaled or replicate again within the country or between different districts or from country to another country. The third pillar for us, it's really how we leverage the finance, because like we are lucky because we are working as a GCF across all financial instruments. And that really gives us the flexibility and capacity to be able really to design the financial of the project or the finance aspects of the project in the way that ensure really 2 main things here, bankability and affordability. Most of the banks, they're just looking for the bankable aspect of the project to ensure really the project is able to attract finance. But I think for us as a climate fund, and we have a mandate and a clear mandate to serve the Paris agreements. So we're really looking for also affordability, how we use our finance to ensure, yes, project is bankable, so able to attract that finance, but also affordability for the end user. And in that case, our end user would be really the farmers. So if we're putting our money in any project, we need to ensure whatever the solutions or the interventions or the technologies that should be affordable for the farmers to access from in the agriculture sector. Last principle for us, it's really about that knowledge management and community of practice. So how we can ensure all the lessons learned are really captured and also create that community of practice as well. But taking those 4 principles, we really have a different mechanism or financial modality where we really support, again, farmers. So we have a mainstream where we work with the countries where come with a clear envelope for the country, like 7 million for the country, and that coming into tranche, 3 million for national adaptation plan, and that's really to help the country to identify their priorities. And in most of the cases, in most of the countries, agriculture and water become as a top priorities, and then followed by energy as well. And then the other 4 million out of the 7, it's really to support the countries in terms of the institutional capacity, so they can really build the capacity, but also to create that enabling environment regulatory framework that's actually required to create the investment landscape. And of course, also they can use it for knowledge sharing and peer-to-peer learning or south-to-south as well learning. And then when it comes to the project, when we finance project, so our project really doesn't have a cap. So you can request any amount, but the cap really comes based on the accredited entity that's able to bring those project to us. But when it comes to the project, we try to look at to put our finance, how we ensure like those projects deliver, of course, on the Paris Agreement, so they show that adaptation and mitigation benefits, or it could be 100% only adaptations. But also to look at how those solutions, again, that being promoted within that project will do that paradigm shifting. And then we're looking at the sustainable development, so all the co-benefits, and also like the country ownership, and that's again very critical. The country ownership for us, it's translated in terms of the initiative actually coming from the country, but really to ensure operational and maintenance for any solution. So if we talk about technology and farmers need to adapt a new technology, we really need to ensure they are sustained and they are able to pay the cost to maintain it and to operationalize it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like your first request to the audience, which is, viewing the farmers as investors. I know that there's one report that came from the FAO Forest and Farm Facility Initiative that estimated farmers are investing 20 to 40% of their annual income towards adaptation. So if you put that together, it's $368 billion towards climate adaptation. And I think what you were just unpacking now is, a good investment, a sign of a great investment is whether it is affordable to the farmer, whether it is addressing those immediate and urgent needs. So there is a world in which we are bringing those shared interests together to accelerate the uptake of progress and of technology. So I want to turn now, we have Faith, we have you here, and your work is really focused on documenting kind of traditional knowledge. There's part of your lived experience, but you're also the project manager of the Indigenous Information Network in Kenya. So can you kind of share your perspectives in this conversation, where Indigenous people and local communities play a role in climate technology and how those needs can be integrated when we think about future design?
So I am Maasai and I'm from Kenya, and my people are pastoralists, but we've also integrated crop farming recently. So that's also something we are learning to do and are doing. And also some of our peoples live close to parks, Masai Mara, for example, and they continue to practice tourism as a way of life. And as Indigenous peoples, we have these diverse values and worldviews that are very important, that are also rooted in respect for nature, and the way in which we approach nature stewardship, how we allow nature to provide for us, as well as how we take care of nature, provide a guidance in the way we put together our efforts to ensure that we restore humanity's relationship with nature and the environment. And we see ourselves as part of the whole interconnected systems, where every element of this system has a role to play in ensuring that we maintain a balance. And I've learned from my peoples how to take care of livestock, how to ensure that we have rotational grazing so that we do not miss out on the different seasons. We have also learned from also my grandmother, who's been lived for long, over 130 years, and at 120 she was still able to cook her food, preserve her food, and be able to provide for us as her grandchildren. And there's all that knowledge that has been passed down from my great grandparents and all the way to the younger generations, how we use our medicines. And we see this as important in ensuring that we live with nature in a sustainable way. And we're also looking at it as we move to the technological and advancements, that it is important to ensure that all the innovations that come up are also built around the Indigenous people's knowledge and worldviews, and that the technology is able to improve the way in which we use our nature sustainably, and not pull us out from nature and how we live with it. So it should enhance the way in which we live. And also during last week at COP29, we were able to be a part of the mandated LCIPP events that put together an annual gathering of Indigenous knowledge holders and also a youth roundtable. And the youth and also the elders shared a number of examples of how they provide food and able to take care of the nature. And for example, the Mbororo people did share how they have advanced skills in accessing the land and the environmental conditions, how they use their vegetables, soil moisture, and also weather to indicate the changes in weather patterns, and how they use also animal behavior to predict the different weather changes, and how this is important for them in ensuring that they are able to track their migrations and ensure that there's no risk to their wildlife. We've also seen how the Kabi people of the northwestern India use Joom, where it's a kind of a shifting agriculture, where it is rooted in their own cultural heritage and ecological knowledge. And they use this to ensure that it reflects their sustainable approach to maintain biodiversity. And there's also like a balance in the way they use their land. And I've also seen how in Africa, there's indigenous peoples who are using youth-led initiatives to ensure that they are able to have kitchen gardens, they are able to have seed banks, so that to ensure that they also like have maintain their own traditional foods, and they continue to revitalize this with the coming generations. In the Pacific, they are doing the reef restorations, and we're just looking at how all these are technologies that indigenous peoples have, and these solutions are important, ensuring that we put together our traditional knowledge, and especially those that are related to land and water, and ensure that they participate in project development, and also taking into account indigenous peoples' FPIC in accessing their knowledge. The youth are also really playing a very big role in ensuring that they are a bridge between the older generation and the younger generation, the children, so that they are able to put together their traditional knowledge, because they carry this, and also they learned knowledge in schools to ensure that they can be able to help the communities advance towards climate technologies. And lastly, I also just want to highlight how it is important for that indigenous peoples are not left behind in the push towards narrowly defined climate technologies, and ensuring that they are included. And this does not just mean a seat at a room or in a table. It also means that they are provided with information in the language that they understand, that they are able to have finances, which has been talked about here, to implement the innovations that they have, in ensuring that they can be able to implement these innovations and they can benefit from their lands. So it is important that we continue to not only develop these technologies, but to ensure that it addresses climate challenges and also enhances our relationship with nature. So we are not yet there in terms of climate technologies in our communities, but there is hope. And I believe that this can also be improved with involvement of indigenous people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Faith. Yeah, round of applause. That was really inspiring to see the different solutions that are already at play and that we should consider as we continue to have this conversation. I'm just noting the time, so I'll ask our speakers to be concise and really to the point in addressing what you feel is most salient coming out. We have, danced around a key player, which is some of the big forces of technology and innovation in the agri-food systems space, which is the private sector, but not necessarily the farmer. When we're talking about some of these that are investing in R&D and innovations and food processing and production. So can we hear from you, Charles? You're from Tetra Pak, Executive Vice President, Processing Solutions and Equipment. What are you hearing today that you think speaks to what partnership should look like moving forward? And what's the role that the private sector should play? And what can you teach us about investments in technology?
That's a big question, and I'll try to keep it short. So our vision is very simple. It's making food safe and available everywhere, protecting food, people, and the planet. Now, you probably know Tetra Pak for its packaging, which revolutionized, in fact, the distribution of liquid foodstuffs, enabling the distribution of nutritious foodstuffs from the producer to the consumer, with virtually no waste, no refrigeration, and no preservatives. You probably don't know so much about Tetra Pak unless you're in the industry, for the fact that we are a leader in liquid food processing, cheese installations, ice cream installations, and now laterally new food protein production. Now, yesterday, somebody said to me, we need to stop talking about the stats of food, but actually, I think we need to keep on reminding ourselves of the fact that 30% of the greenhouse gas problem sits in food. and 30% of all food is wasted. But I think that we particularly need to remind ourselves of the fact that only 4% of the climate investment is going into the food industry. Now, if you take the food value chain, 83% of the greenhouse gas problem sits in the agri side. 18% sits in what we call now the hidden middle, and we've revived this from Professor Reardon, who came up with the phrase, and this is from farm gate to fork. And it's in this space that we operate, and in fact, it's in this space that there are many solutions. Each one of our business sectors have a mandate to reduce energy, waste, water, and chemicals in the different solutions that they represent. And the solutions are there to be invested in. Now, as water prices, energy prices, carbon taxes start to come in, the return on investment for implementing these solutions becomes easier for the various producers. But we believe that there should be both policy incentives and financial funds available for producers to be able to invest faster into the technologies. Now, there are two key aspects of this. One is that we can quickly decarbonize the hidden middle. And secondly, it's about reducing food loss and waste. By reducing food loss and waste, we actually take pressure off of the farming communities. And that is also helping with food security. So work with the policymakers, work with the financial communities, and work with alliances and with NGOs, and we're a partner with WBCSD in the food and agri section to support this effort, to really help to work on the hidden middle. Remember that phrase.
Brilliant. The hidden middle from farm gate to fork. So I would like to invite Mr. Pedro from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, incoming COP30 presidency. Can you give us really what do you see as your responsibility to take forward, and any perspectives you want to share to close this out?
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to share this panel here with our colleagues. Well, at the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Baranch here for reminding ourselves of when we talk about agriculture, we have a major challenge, which is to combat hunger and to be reminded of the 700 million people that suffer from it. So in this context, please allow me also to remind you that Brazil yesterday, in the context of the G20 summit, has launched the Global Alliance Against Poverty and Hunger, which is already an alliance of more than 80 members, countries, that is aimed at channeling finance to combating hunger, and also to come up with a meaningful policy basket to address this major challenge. So I think it's important we give attention to that major challenge, while we also, of course, consider the fight against climate change in that domain. I think that the panel is about experiences on the ground, and we are talking about agriculture, climate change, and tech. So I may offer a little bit of a Brazilian experience in terms of R&D in that sector. As you, the question that was posed was related to the strategy that Brazil has been taken in order to mitigate or to address decarbonization in the agricultural sector. And the strategy, I would simply summarize as the institutionalization of applied research. This is actually a strategy that we have been implementing since the early 19th century, but which had a major milestone in the 1970s with the foundation of the Brazilian agricultural research company, Embrapa. So Embrapa has been at the forefront of the major agricultural revolutions in Brazil, first expanding Brazilian agriculture throughout its territory, and by, for example, coming up with innovations to remove acidity from our soil, of our tropical soil, and that enabled our agricultural production to increase. Then now Embrapa also came up with techniques, technologies to increase the productivity of our agricultural sector in various domains. And now Embrapa is leading the way in sustainable agriculture. I think in various sectors, ranging from simple technologies, simple techniques to very, sophisticated technology in the digital, also including digital technologies, but also simple non-tillage techniques and triple cropping and so on. So I think that we I think owe a lot to the work of Embrapa and its researchers to the advancement of sustainable agriculture in the country. I think you asked me to be brief. I can deliver more details on our experience in Brazil, but I'm happy to talk to you also after our session here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can carry the discussions on in Brazil for sure. I just want to leave some time, because we only have a few minutes left, to have closing remarks from Fred Onduri, who's here with us, listening in this whole time. You are the chair of the Climate Tech Center and Network, and a negotiator for a long time. So can you just find a way to put this into perspective in terms of how do we take this all forward and close out this session?
Thank you so much, moderator. And let's say thank you to all our presenters for sharing their insights on innovation solutions in agri-food systems. Accelerating NDC in agri-food systems through climate technology is key to boosting resilience, reducing emissions, and ensuring food security in the face of climate change. These practices help farmers improve productivity while reducing environmental impacts, aligning with the NDC commitments. From the CTCN perspective, we've seen growing demand from developing countries for improved agri-systems, including solar-powered irrigation systems. Countries have asked for that. Agro-meteorological systems with IoT for timely climate data. We have also seen demands for drones and AI for better decision-making in farming and combating deforestation. Techniques like hydroponics, anaponics, and floating farms to enhance food security. Innovation is happening every day, but we must ensure it reaches the people who need it most. Collaboration, including with private sector involvement, can help finance and scale these technologies. The TEC, that is Technology Executive Committee, the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and the CTCN are committed to supporting developing countries by ensuring technologies are gender responsive. We take gender very seriously. Providing community training and creating enabling environment for scaling these initiatives at national and regional levels. In conclusion, as we accelerate NDCs in agri-systems, let's make climate technologies center to our strategies. We must invest in capacity building, mobilize finance, and promote social inclusion. Together, we can transform agri-systems for sustainability, resilience, and a healthier planet for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience and for allowing me to rush you. This means we are at a moment where we need to talk more. So I would say let's talk outside of the room. Let's continue being champions in this initiative. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.